Hi, I'm Emily. I live in a small town where everyone knows everyone and life rarely changes. It's the kind of place where gossip travels faster than cars, and secrets are as rare as snowfall in the summer. But even in a place as small and predictable as this, my heart found itself caught in a whirlwind one I never saw coming, and one that left me breathless, broken, and forever changed. Before we delve into this story of love, loss, and second chances, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Your support means the world and helps stories like this find their way to more hearts. It all began one rainy afternoon when he walked into my world. Liam was the kind of guy who seemed like he belonged in a movie, not in our sleepy little town. He wasn't just handsome. He had this quiet confidence, like he'd seen the world and carried its stories in his soul. His dark hair always looked perfectly tousled, and his emerald green eyes seemed to hold secrets you'd spend a lifetime trying to uncover. He moved into the old house at the end of Maple Street, the one everyone said was haunted. Of course, being the curious person I am, I decided to introduce myself. With an umbrella in one hand and cookies in the other, I walked up to his door, rehearsing my welcome to the neighborhood speech in my head. When he opened the door, I was struck by how his presence seemed to fill the space. "Hi," I managed to say, my voice almost swallowed by the rain. "I'm Emily. I live down the street. Thought you might like some cookies." He smiled a soft, almost shy smile that made my heart skip a beat. "Thanks. I'm Liam. Nice to meet you, Emily." From that moment on, Liam and I became inseparable. We'd spend hours talking about everything and nothing. He told me about the cities he'd lived in, the adventures he'd had, and the places he dreamed of visiting. And I told him about my small-town life, my love for art, and my secret wish to one day leave this place and see the world. But Liam, he was different. He wasn't just another person passing through my life. He saw me in a way no one else ever had. He noticed the little things, how I tapped my fingers when I was nervous, how my eyes lit up when I talked about painting, how I'd hum when I was deep in thought. And in return, he let me see parts of himself he didn't share with anyone else. "I've never really stayed in one place for long," he admitted one evening as we sat on the hood of his car, watching the stars. "But this town, it feels different. You make it feel different." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that I could be the reason he stayed, that for once, someone wouldn't leave. But life has a funny way of teaching you lessons you're not ready to learn. It started with little things. Liam would cancel plans last minute or disappear for hours without explanation. When I asked him about it, he'd shrug and say, "Just needed some time to think." I tried to be understanding. I told myself he'd open up when he was ready. But deep down, I felt the distance growing between us, like a crack in a glass that only gets bigger with time. Then, one day, he was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. I went to his house, hoping for answers, but it was empty. His clothes, his books, his car, everything was gone. It was as if he'd never been there. The only thing left was a small folded piece of paper on the windowsill. My hands trembled as I picked it up. "Emily, I'm sorry. I wish I could explain. But some things are better left unsaid. You'll always have a piece of my heart. Don't forget that. Liam." I read the note over and over, trying to make sense of it. But no matter how many times I read his words, they didn't answer the questions swirling in my mind. Why did he leave? Was it something I did? Something I said? Or was this just who Liam was, a wanderer, never meant to stay in one place for too long? The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Everywhere I went, I saw reminders of him. The coffee shop where we'd shared lazy Sunday mornings, the park where we'd spent hours talking, the art supplies store where he'd surprised me with a new set of brushes just because. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest, leaving behind a gaping hole I didn't know how to fill. And yet, as much as it hurt, I couldn't bring myself to hate him. Because the truth was, Liam had shown me a kind of love I'd never known before. He'd taught me what it meant to truly feel alive. Months passed, and slowly I began to heal. I threw myself into my art, pouring all my pain and longing onto the canvas. My paintings became a reflection of my journey, raw, messy, and heartbreakingly beautiful. Every stroke told a story of love, loss, and resilience. The art became my sanctuary, a place where I could face my emotions and transform them into something meaningful. As time went on, I started to rediscover pieces of myself I'd forgotten in the whirlwind of loving Liam. I spent more time with friends, explored new hobbies, and even entered a few art competitions. Each small victory felt like a step toward reclaiming my life. One day, as I was setting up for an art exhibit in the city, a familiar voice called my name. I turned, and there he was, Liam. Standing in the middle of the gallery, looking just as I remembered, but with an air of vulnerability I'd never seen before. "Emily," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I had to see you. To explain." My heart raced as 1,000 emotions flooded my mind. Anger, relief, hope, fear. "You left," I said, my voice trembling. "Without a word. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" "I do," he said, his eyes filled with regret. "And I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you, but I had to leave. There were things I needed to figure out about myself, about my past, but not a day went by that I didn't think about you." "Why now?" I asked. "Why come back now?" "Because I realized something," he said, taking a step closer. "No matter where I go or what I do, my heart always leads me back to you." Tears filled my eyes as I looked at him, the man who had broken my heart, and yet somehow still held it in his hands. "Liam," I said, my voice cracking, "I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I can go through that kind of pain again." "I understand," he said, his voice steady. "And I'm not asking for forgiveness or for you to take me back. I just needed you to know how much you mean to me. How much you've always meant to me." For a moment we just stood there, the weight of everything unspoken hanging in the air. And then, slowly, I reached out and took his hand. "Liam," I said, my voice soft but firm, "if you want to be a part of my life, you have to stay. No more running, no more disappearing. If you can't promise me that, then this, whatever this is, ends here." He looked at me, his eyes full of determination. "I promise," he said. "No more running." In that moment, I knew that while our story had been filled with heartbreak and pain, it wasn't over. Because sometimes, the people who break your heart are the same ones who help you put it back together. Love isn't always easy. It's messy and complicated and often downright painful. But when it's real, it's worth fighting for. And Liam, he was worth it. Our story isn't perfect, and it never will be. But maybe that's what makes it beautiful. It's a reminder that love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who inspires you to complete yourself. And as we stood there, hand in hand, I knew that whatever came next, we'd face it together.